Welcome in, everyone. This is another edition of the Full-Time Roundup podcast. It is your host, Daniel Brackett, joined alongside me, Harrison Clark. Harrison, it's been a while since you've been on. It's been a while since we've been on the mic as the season kind of finished up the last couple of weeks, and I've just been so busy. But how we doing?
I'm good. Sad to see a lot of the club games finish up. It was a hell of a run this year, but we got some summer games coming up, some other games. So I'm still looking forward to, even though it is the off season, the international matchups. We'll see.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend. I was like, "What am I going to do every Saturday and Sunday morning now?" Right as I wake up.
You'll just go to Europe and watch the games yourself.
That's true, because I do leave for Wednesday for that. It's going to be a good time. Got my eyes on one match that I really want to go to. I just need to make sure I'm not getting scammed out of a ticket from StubHub. There's no seat in row, which makes me very confused.
Yeah.
And it's also a pretty penny, so I'm kind of not sure what to do there. So I'm seeking help as we speak. But Spain, Croatia, that is the game that I would like to go to. It's in Berlin. I'll be in Berlin at that time. So that will be the ideal match for me. But we'll go ahead. And so just to lay out the groundwork for this podcast, we're going to cover Champions League, Europa Conference League, talk about the EFL Championship final, touch on a couple other things, and then we'll be out of here. So this should be a rather quick episode here, but let's just go ahead and dive into the Champions League. I've been out of the country for the last two Champions Leagues, so it was really nice to just be in Charlotte and get to sit down with some of my buddies and watch at a local pub. I went to Big Ben's, if anyone from Charlotte's listening, and it was a good crowd and got some seats and some good times. So first off, it was a great final. It wasn't too cagey, and there were some good chances on either side. But what were your kind of takeaways, just first off, on this match, Harrison?
Real Madrid are just gods at this point, and really, in the end, we always knew that it would be probably Madrid holding the trophy at the end of it. Dortmund made it weird in the first half. Obviously, hitting the post, Adeyemi, it could change the entire game right there. And not finishing that chance, and Dortmund not being able to bury anything in the first half when they were the better team, it kind of set up a Madrid takeover in the second half. And I guess it was cagey until about the 75th minute when Carvajal scored, but after that, it was, game opened up. Benny gets his goal, and then that's wraps. And 15 titles now. That's kind of absurd now.
Yeah, no, it felt, especially after how bad Real Madrid played in that first half and Dortmund had nothing to show for it. It just felt like we knew what was going to happen in the second half. I was honestly surprised that there was no substitutions at halftime. I thought Don Carlos' decision of starting Camavinga over Tchouaméni was an interesting decision. I figured that we'd see Modric fairly early into the second half, and there was no subs taking place until I think the 70th minute. On Dortmund's side, you got to feel for them. I mean, they played the better game. I really thought Carlo Ancelotti would kind of outcoach Terzic here. I feel like he really didn't. It just happens to be that Madrid voodoo magic that we constantly talk about. And it felt like kind of the inevitable after the 65th minute that Real Madrid were just going to turn the screws here. I will say that, Real Madrid played a lot better in the second half than the first half. And then Danny Carvajal with a nice flick header to the back post. And I mean, that second giveaway for that goal was just terrible. Jude gets the assist, Vinny gets the goal there, and he might be well on his way to a Ballon d'Or after winning the Champions League. We'll see what happens in Copa America this summer, but Vinny or Jude, I feel like, are in the pole position to win the Ballon d'Or with that Champions League trophy now.
Definitely helps their case. I think it's weird on international years like this for the World Cup. They end up, it's supposed to be like a club trophy, but they you can tell that they take stock in how they do in international competitions. We saw that a couple of years ago when Jorginho finished like top 5.
That was
Um,
wild.
it's my guy, Chelsea legend. But uh, I think that Vinny, it's going to be interesting to see what they do with him next year, because can you coexist with him and Mbappe up top? Who's going to play on the wing? Who's going to play striker? I think obviously that's all questions that Ancelotti, again, if he's there, I guess we'll have to figure out. But yeah, I mean, in the end, Dortmund played a great game, but it's always Madrid.
Speaking of Carlo Ancelotti, his 5th Champions League trophy. 5th. I think he
He's
broke
getting
a
up there.
record. He's getting up there in age, and I mean, he's one of the most accomplished, if not the most accomplished manager of all time. I mean, he's definitely in top 3. Hard to believe that he was at Everton before Real Madrid. That's the wild part. But yeah, a couple other standout performances I wanted to mention. I thought, Gregory Kobel and Courtois both completely stood on their head. I mean, they both played an excellent match. Courtois especially had some fantastic saves from open play. And then Kobel had a couple nice saves off some free kicks from Tony Cruz. I was really happy that Tony Cruz got the assist for Danny Carvajal, his last game ever for the club. He'll be playing with Germany in the Euros, but he still bossed the game at 33, 34 years old. And it's going to be a shame to see him go, as well as Modric. Now,
Modric is staying.
Is he staying?
They announced this morning that they're going to sign him to a 1-year deal.
I missed that. Well, good for him. I'm glad he's staying. One of those two had to stay just to kind of see that team's still young. So you got to have a veteran in the locker room like Modric or Cruz just to keep the heads level during the season. But that left side, Adeyemi, really caused a lot of trouble. And even though Danny Carvajal did score in this Champions League final, I think that Real Madrid's one of their priorities, since they just signed Mbappe this morning, confirmed, here we go from Fabrizio, is signing a right back, because Carvajal is getting up there in age. It's probably their biggest weakness. Terzic knew that, and they were playing this counterattacking football with Adeyemi just sprinting down on the left side, and it caused a lot of trouble. All their chances came from the left side. So I haven't been really impressed with Adeyemi this year, but I thought he really showed up yesterday, and Real Madrid should look to kind of simplify that right side of the defense for the future.
Yeah, you can just tell that Carvajal, doesn't have the pace he used to. I mean,
He's a rotation guy now.
Yeah, I mean, he's never even been like the fastest guy, but he's been just kind of a stalwart there for a long time. But if you put a guy like Adeyemi, who has a ton of pace, like he's gonna find a way to create chances and stuff like that. I do agree that they probably do need a new right back. They had the crazy rumors going on earlier this year. They're talking about how they're going to get Alphonso Davies in there with Mbappe, and I saw some stuff about Trent. I know you don't want that to happen, and I highly doubt that would happen. But that would be crazy.
Alfonso will play. I think he'll actually make the move to Madrid. So Ferland Mendy and him will kind of duke it out for that left side. Maybe he'd be able to play that right side defense. I mean, Reece James or Trent make a lot of sense. I heard we were talking about it at the final yesterday, and someone mentioned like Jeremy Frimpong got a very cheap release clause. That would be scary. He's more attacking than defending.
He's so good though.
But he's really good. So it's like maybe he would work out for that kind of next Galactico signing. But all good problems to have, especially when you have Vinicius, Jude, Mbappe, Rodrigo, Valverde. I mean, you just name it.
So loaded.
Real Madrid somehow win another Champions League and then get better the next day immediately. So it's going to be incredible. I just don't even see how any other team can compete other than Manchester City. Barcelona are in big trouble now for next season's La Liga. And I don't know, they just always believe. And now the new guard, the new players, the younger players have multiple Champions Leagues under their belt. And so the culture and the torch have been passed down to these younger players this season. I felt like that was officially passed down. And it's just like they still have that mentality, that winner's mentality, that they just dig deep. And at the end of the day, they're going to win. So I'm glad we got to cover that. Any remaining thoughts on the Champions League final?
No, nothing particular. Just like, I don't know, when is it going to end where Madrid is just dominant? Like, and it's just like now I don't even see I don't see how it doesn't keep going in some sense over the next whatever it will be 10 years now. Which is it's I was saying it, the rich get richer. They're going to be good again for another long stretch of years.
Only really the biggest question is replacing Don Carlo at the end of next season.
Yeah.
Is like the only question they have in
Xabi.
the future. And you got Xabi Alonso, or and hell, Zidane could come back with Mbappe coming. I mean, they're going to have the best of the best. So it's very doubtful that someone will flop. But speaking of Xabi Alonso, let's go and get to the Europa League final. Bayer Leverkusen, almost unbeaten all season, with their only loss of the season coming on the final day in the Europa League final against Bergamo, the boys of Atalanta. Gasperini gets his first European silverware. Happy for him. But not only did Bayer Leverkusen lose, they lost 3-0 to Atalanta's men. And that was surprising for me. I did not expect that. I expected a tough game, but they were completely outplayed in this match. What do you think happened?
Dude, I was stunned watching the first half of that game. First of all, Atalanta's pressure, their on-ball pressure was tearing Leverkusen apart.
They suffocated them.
They were they were giving the ball away every other time they had it. I was a little confused by the lineup decision.
Me too.
They didn't start at 9 at all. I mean, they had nobody, no target man, nothing,
no outlet, yeah,
no hold up play, nothing. It was all pretty much any sort of chances that they were able to create in the first half was all going to have to come through Frimpong making a run on the wing, or or from the middle from Florian Wirtz. I mean, it's like I just felt like you said, there was no outlet for Leverkusen to create anything, and then you add in the ball pressure that Atalanta was putting on. We're outchancing them like crazy, and Lookman had the game of his life.
Hat-trick hero.
Yeah, he was insane. And some of his goals were absolute bangers too. He was scoring from outside the box,
left foot, right foot,
putting in the side,
however you like,
putting in the side panel like every single time. Besides the first one, which was just kind of bad defending, I think
it was terrible. Palacios completely caught ball watching on that.
Yeah, I did not think he had a good game. When I was watching Palacios, he was just kind of like, he was falling over a lot, which I get. It's kind of the South American mentality, but I mean, Leverkusen just looked horrible. Really, I mean, I think it was a combination of Atalanta playing really solid and their pressure creating problems, and Leverkusen looking like they just had no strategy.
No, it was weird. I hadn't seen Xabi Alonso outcoached all year. I hadn't seen Leverkusen look like that all year. It was really confusing, but I mean, I feel like you got to credit Gasperini. He got the game plan right. Scamacca, Lookman, Koop Miners, that front three, De Catalare as well. I mean, Bayer Leverkusen had no answers. It could have been much worse.
Yeah.
I think Leverkusen had 2 really good chances, and they both fell to Grimaldo. Grimaldo messed up a one-timer, and then the second one, the keeper made one of the dumbest aggressive come-outs ever, and he tried to chip him, and he hit it right at him. And so at that point, it was 2-0. If Grimaldo pulls one back there, 2-1, we might be talking about a completely different game. But really the biggest thing that confused me was just Florian Wirtz just completely disappeared. Had no idea. He didn't show up at all, really. Don't really know what happened. I mean, I feel like you could probably attribute that to not having a target man, especially with the pressure that Atalanta was giving. Sometimes you just need to hit a long ball. And that's not really in Bayer Leverkusen's DNA. But having a Boniface or a Patrick Schick to kind of hold the ball up and let Florian Wirtz kind of get the pieces from that and go. Would have made a lot of sense to me. I mean, Adley, I think, didn't have a great game. But yeah, Leverkusen looked teethless. Maybe this is, the blueprint to beat Bayer Leverkusen, and a lot of teams employ this blueprint next year. We'll have to see. I mean, I feel like this Leverkusen team might be a little bit different from or for next year, just because Frimpong will probably be gone and a couple other players. So we'll have to see. But really disappointing as they won the Polkai. And so they only need to win one more game to become unbeaten and to win. They won the. Did they win the treble? No, they didn't win the treble.
Mm-hmm.
So they won a double though, which is still remarkable though.
Yeah, I mean, far exceeded anybody's expectations of what they would do. I mean, they didn't look good in the final, in the Pokal final either. I mean,
yeah,
maybe it's just like
a red
fatigue.
card though kind of happened at that
Yeah,
one.
I mean, yeah, that is true, but I'm sure fatigue probably played a large part in these final two games for them, and the fact that the mental toll of trying to keep an undefeated season alive is definitely going to be stressful on the body. And but like their goal in the Pokal was an absolute banger from Granit Xhaka, and it felt like that would be what it would have to take against Atalanta for them to even get on the score sheet, because really they just weren't generating anything.
Yeah, it's a shame, but we talked a lot about Bayer Leverkusen. Just want to again give our flowers to Atalanta. I've been a big fan of Gasperini for a while now. Atalanta have just been such a fun team to watch over the years, and they lose players yearly, they reload, and then they still play that really attractive brand of football. Hopefully, Skamaka, Coop Miners, some of the stars, Ederson in the middle of the park, who I like a lot, will stay and they can actually build something this year, and maybe compete for a Serie A trophy next year. So that's my hope. I hope Gasperini they don't have a fire sale, because it seems like every time they get a really good player, they just lose them.
Mm-hmm.
I did see that De Catelare will probably sign a permanent deal, though, which is a big news. I think Coop Miners will leave, but if you had De Catelare, and then apparently they're signing one more attacker. I can't remember off the top of my head who it is, but I think Lookman will be there to say. I think Skamaka has got at least one more season under his belt there at Atalanta, and maybe they can kind of build off this and rattle off a few more trophies here and there. But the last cup final within Europe that I wanted to talk about was the European Conference League. Just to touch on it, I mean, it was played in Athens, and Olympiacos, it's basically a home game for them. And Olympiacos do the impossible and are the first Greek team to win a European championship. And so they play Fiorentina, of course. It was a cagey match. The game was decided by penalties, but Olympiacos, I think so. No. It was a late. Excuse me, I'm sorry, I was mixing up another game, but it was a late goal, and the city of Athens just absolute party after that game. I mean, watching a European championship like that in your own hometown when your team's playing is nuts.
It looks unbelievable. Like, I thought Leverkusen's celebration when they won the Bundesliga was awesome, when they stormed the field and that place looked like a madhouse. Like, the celebration in Athens, that place was absolutely on fire.
They've been starved. I mean, the country of Greece hasn't won anything club wise or country wise since 2004 when they won the Euros. I mean, 20 years we're talking about since and a club team like Athens, there's a bunch of famous teams like Olympiacos and PAOK or whatever you said. They're historically good teams, and they've never won a European championship. So for Olympiacos to not only beat Fenerbahce, they beat Aston Villa, and then they go beat Fiorentina, completely punching above their weight, is just insane.
Yeah, good for them. Just like we all thought, Olympiacos, Europa League Conference champions.
Did not have that on the docket, and we have this guy El Kabi, 30-year-old Moroccan. And I mean, he scores the game-winning goal in the final. And that wasn't it, but he put up career numbers against Aston Villa beforehand. He had 5 goals in 2 legs against Aston Villa, the top scorer of the Europa Conference League. This guy was a woodworker at 21 years old, and he just lifted some silverware for Olympiacos. I mean, that rise is insane, and I'm just really happy for, a smaller team like Olympiacos to go and really, cement themselves into history.
Yeah. Yeah. Geez, he did go absolutely nuclear against Villa. Holy shit.
Yeah, they had no answers for him. They couldn't believe it. He couldn't believe it.
Yeah, this guy, Morocco. Hey, call him up. Woodworker.
World Cup coming up soon. He might be on that plane. He might be on that plane.
Hey, if you got the choice between Hakeem Ziyech and El Kabi, I don't know who you're choosing.
I'm going with El Kabi right now based
I
off the
agree.
sample size.
Yep.
But another, final that I wanted to talk about, the FA Cup final. I mean, what the hell was that? Manchester City lose to Manchester United. Ten Hag on the final day of the season. People say, oh, he's going to be fired right after the game. He basically saves his job and beats a very lethargic Manchester City. And personally, I couldn't believe it.
No, I couldn't believe it either. I was absolutely stunned. First half was not up to par to what we usually see from City. They just didn't look very good, and I have to give credit to United. Looked like they came out with a good game plan. Obviously, the first goal, nightmare from
Gvardiol, Ortega.
nightmare.
I'm blaming Ortega there, but it was just really bad.
Looked like just a lack of communication. And that's probably on the goalie because that's his area. He needs to take control there. But Garnacho finishes the empty net, and then I thought the second goal was beautiful.
Manu,
yeah,
that pass from Bruno Fernandes,
the cross-field ball from Rashford was unbelievable to start with, and then the pass from Bruno, where the fake shot right into the path of Manu was really pretty. And then, as we expected, second half it was all City, and they were just trying to get back into it. And I guess they made it weird in the end because Doku scored about 6 minutes left or whatever it was. But in the end, an absolute stunner. They were plus 500 to win that game.
5-1, yeah, they were big time underdogs.
I mean, think of just the history of these teams, for a Manchester Derby final and Man U to be plus 500 in a final, it's kind of crazy just to think about. But hey, I don't know. Also, I hate it because now Chelsea has to play in the Conference League, which was just gut wrenching. You tell me that City and United are going to play in the final, and I'm like, okay, you just got one job. You don't even have to play that well. Just win the trophy. Nope. Let's play in the Conference League next year. Can't wait.
Have fun, and those Thursday nights in Serbia are gonna hit so hard. Yeah. But I was looking at the past results from the Manchester Derby. Out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games, Manchester United won 3 of those. So, I mean, they've just been owned by their counter rivals. City, kind of like Bayer Leverkusen, just had no answer for the tactical game plan, and they just looked out of gas. They didn't look interested. They only win the Premier League this year, as Liverpool won the EFL Cup, United won the FA Cup, and they lost the Champions League to Real Madrid. So only one trophy. Yes, it is the Premier League, but could you make the argument this was a failed season for Pep Guardiola's men after winning the treble last year?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, Madrid obviously is up there, but I still think roster-wise, they have the best roster in all of Europe.
I'd agree. Best
So
coach too, arguably.
coach in all of Europe, like you need, I think, and obviously if you're comparing it to winning a treble last year, then you expect more than one trophy. Now, obviously the trophy they won was a big one. Like winning the Prem is no joke, but I think you expect them to throw another trophy in there along the way, whether it be an FA Cup, whether it be a Carabao Cup. So yeah, I would call it a failure in that sense. Obviously, I think the Prem is always the main goal going into any season. Is you want to win your own league, but from a wider standpoint, I think that not getting to a Champions League final and losing to your rivals in an FA Cup final it makes it a little more sour, I think.
Yeah, and I thought it was cool. I mean, Garnacho and Mainu been probably the two biggest names of Manchester United this year. The kids, as well as Højlund, did not start this match, but came on. Surprised he didn't start, but it kind of finished with the kids and Bruno Fernandes making the biggest difference. I thought Amrabat, Martinez, Varane,
Well, having Martinez and Varane was
so
massive.
big. I mean, they completely different team.
Yes.
Like Martinez was like just absolutely distributing the ball, finding those pockets of space, those breaking lines constantly. I mean, Pep Guardiola talked about it after the game how well Lisandro Martinez played, and he was really one of the players that really screwed up Pep's game plan because he didn't expect him to be able to kind of just absolutely dictate the pace of play and be able to break the lines because that City press is not it's hard to break. And so for them just to constantly be breaking City's press, and then when City get the ball and they're just slowly kind of closing in on you and it's inevitable. I mean, it was like 2 blocks of 4. They looked like they were never going to get broken down. And so, I mean, it was so bad that De Bruyne got hooked at 56 minutes for
Yeah.
Doku.
He did not look good.
He looked terrible.
Brian looked
Terrible. And Holland did absolutely nothing.
Oh.
Foden looked good. Doku looked good coming on, but it was just
I thought
overall
Alvarez looked good coming on as well, but
2
he
big
had
chances.
2 enormous chances and didn't finish either of them. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. But I thought it was a good final. I think we at least got to see some parity, which was nice for once. We've gotten some big upsets, late in the season. So I was fairly happy about that.
what do you
And
think
then
what do you think this means for Ten Hag?
I think he's staying. I think you have to give him one more year. I mean, he's won 2 trophies in 2 years.
Yeah, I think that it's so tough because obviously it's nowhere near what Manchester United standards are. But like then you look at their team when they're actually playing with 2 real center
They
backs.
got so injured, like
I know, like
insanely injured.
they're playing with Casemiro and Johnny Evans at center back.
It's not sustainable.
No, I just don't think you have a chance to win anything with those 2. So part of me does feel for Ten Hag in that aspect that he didn't even have really a full roster that he could even go to. So
He just doesn't help himself with the man management side. I think that was his problem, was like pissing off the United players, like the whole Sancho thing, Sancho being in the Champions League final after not saying sorry to Ten Hag. Like that's just really ironic. Like where does his future stand? That's a $75 million player. You want to buy Anthony stunk. Højlund's been good. You brought up Mainu. Garnacho has flourished under his, tenure. So you built a good base. They don't have as much money to spend as past United teams do because Jim Ratcliffe is just simply not going to do it. So every window you just got to build and be a little bit better, be a little bit more pragmatic. And there's been games where Ten Hag completely outcoached, like not even close. It wasn't the personnel. It wasn't anything. It was just Ten Hag completely messing up the game plan. But against some of the elite managers, he beat Jurgen Klopp twice. He beat Pep Guardiola in a final. I mean,
yeah,
I think he's showed flashes of brilliance, and I think he deserves to have one more season, especially with the cards he was dealt this year. So I mean, we'll keep an eye on it, but let's go ahead. We're talking about coaches. Let's go ahead, jump in. Pochettino sacked Enzo Maresca, who brings Leicester City up, jumps ship. And this was a guy who had a 20-point lead in the championship and almost choked it away. Harrison, how do you feel about the hire of the bald Italian Enzo Maresca?
Uh,
Pep Guardiola guy, though.
yeah, that's the part that makes me feel okay about it. And that he'll be playing some of a similar style to Pep. Now, obviously, it's hard to beat Pep, but I mean, if you're bringing similar football, I mean, I don't think it hurts to try. Um,
Arteta, that worked out.
yeah, no, it worked out for Arsenal. I was a little upset that they did decide to get rid of Mauricio. Felt like with the way the season ended, he was starting to build something a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Felt like there was more camaraderie, and you had like a closer. The players felt like they had a closer connection to the fans, and part of that is because they were getting the wins. Um,
You guys
and I
ended on a
felt,
really good high note. Like the last 10 games were fantastic.
yeah, obviously he just didn't meet the standards of Todd Bowley, which uh, that's probably a conversation for another day about Todd Bowley. But I think that their standards are slightly higher than they should be right now at this stage.
You gotta be
Like
realistic,
I
right?
just don't think we're built yet. I think we have talent to make top four, but I don't think that they're ready because everybody is so damn young on the team that like asking for top four right away is a really tough ask. And to be honest, with the lineup that we had prior to getting Cole Palmer, I don't think that had a chance. And Cole Palmer is the reason that we're even playing European football next year. So I don't know. I felt a little sick for Mauricio. I think that he deserved another go, and are starting to build a little something. You could see that the players, like especially at the end of the year, they're posting on Instagram and stuff like that how they were upset to see him go. Especially Nicholas Jackson, who Mauricio gave so much opportunity to, and you could tell that he was appreciative of that. But we'll see what's next. I think Enzo will bring a different kind of football. I know that they wanted more possession based kind of stuff, and being able to control games in that sense. And I think that him playing with like kind of, I think that what is it? He plays with a double pivot. So um, having Enzo and Caicedo dominating the ball is actually like they can do that, I think, fine. So we'll see how it is next year, and the signings that they'll make regarding the coaching change. But a little sad to see Poach go.
Yeah, I feel like Poch has more experience. Enzo Maresca was dealt a really good side with Leicester City. I mean, they still had Ndidi, they had Drewsbury Hall, Jamie Vardy, Iheanacho. They had one of the better championship
Yeah.
sides to recent memory. Probably not as good as Burnley when they got promoted last year. But pretty damn good. And obviously they started hot and then kind of fell off, but this is a ballsy hire for a team that's had a lot of struggle in the last couple of years. I would have written out my cards with Poch one more year, but feel bad for the guy. I think he'll land on his 2 feet once again. I think he'll be fine. I think he's still held in high regards amongst the footballing community. If Ten Hag was to get fired so at some point next year, I could see him going to Manchester United like that. He could still get a big job, I feel like. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how he plays his cards and where, if he just waits until the right opportunity comes this time, or I don't know what is in store for Pochettino, but I still think he's a great manager.
I can definitely see a former Chelsea manager becoming the Manchester United manager should Ten Hag get gassed, either him or Tuchel.
Yeah.
Would not be
Yeah.
shocked if one of them took that job.
That makes sense. Another couple hirings that went on. Stefano Pioli is gone. It seems like Paulo Fonseca from Lille will join that. I personally wanted De Zerbi at Milan. It's still not here we go for Fabrizio, but that Milan spot is up for grabs. It seems like Antonio Conte to Napoli has finished. Now that is
Oh,
going to be fun.
yeah,
That is going to be fun. I'm excited for that.
I am too. That's gonna be hype. I mean,
Especially if he gets Lukaku. Oh my god.
Well, yeah. I mean, we'll see what happens with Osimhen and everything. Like, I have no idea what's going on there. I mean, they were saying that Fabrizio was saying that there hasn't been a swap deal yet for Lukaku for Osimhen, which, like, from a Chelsea perspective, it's like, wow. I mean, if we can get Osimhen for Romelu Lukaku, that'd be unbelievable. But
plus cash, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
But yeah, no, Conte's play style with whatever his name is on the left wing.
Travaglia. Oh my goodness.
I think it's gonna be a good time watching them, especially with the wing backs. And I mean, it just gives me flashbacks to how Chelsea used to play under him. But that'll be a blast in Napoli. I think they'll enjoy him.
I mean, Conte went to Inter and won silverware. He had the best Serie A side of all time with Juventus.
He wins nearly everywhere he goes.
He's a winner. Beside Tottenham. That's literally the only team he's like not won shit at. I mean, Chelsea, that 3-4-3 he played was literally unstoppable. It was insane. Yep. You guys didn't even have like that. Your roster wasn't that good.
He made Victor Moses look like Jeremy Frimpong.
Yeah, no. It's wild.
It was unbelievable.
And then if you sell Osimhen and get a fat wad of cash for him to spend, and he spends it on the players that Antonio Conte wants, which means a happy Conte, then that is a dangerous recipe right there. That the whole thing is like he wants autonomy on who he signs, and if he doesn't get his way or doesn't get backed, he's out. Like he did that at Tottenham. It was never going to work there. But Chelsea backed him, Inter backed him, like Juve backed him, and it's always worked out in trophies. So that's going to be a fun one. Xavi ends up getting fired. Hansi Flick to Barcelona. I don't know how I feel about that one. Barcelona can't even register him right now because they're so poor. I mean, Barcelona could just default on everything. I think what would be smart, which it's hard to do, and the streets would burn at Barcelona, but if you're really down bad that financially, you just got to sell like all the La Masia kids.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to sell them all because that's the biggest profit because you paid nothing for them. So you sell, Frankie de Jong might go, but you sell Lamine Yamal for $300 million. You sell Gavi for $200 million, and then you sell Pedri for $150 million. All your finance, all your debt.
That's the easy fix. I mean, that would obviously be so heartbreaking for the fans. Like,
it would destroy your team, and you'd have to.
You might have no fans left. Like you might still be absolutely broke from nobody showing up.
That's true. New stadium, but not new stadium, but renovated stadium. But
I'm already thinking though, like I'm already having visions of Hansi Flick playing his super high press and Vinicius Jr. scoring like 4 goals on the just him, Mbappe and Vinicius Jr. just standing on the halfway line.
Just waiting.
Yeah. Just absolutely burning whoever it might be back there.
I feel like Hansi Flick versus Carlo Ancelotti is going to be a lot of fun, like matchups next year.
Could be.
Like, I mean, he won the Champions League. He didn't work out with Germany, but I don't know. We'll see how long Hansi lasts there. I think that could be, shorter tenure than long for sure. Like 1, maybe max 2 years, but we'll have to see.
I could see some Barca overs next year. I kind of just like that. I mean, Hansi, I guess at Bayern, like leagues are different, I know, but with how he plays, completely open behind and then just pressing the shit out of teams. Like I could see a lot of goals coming in their games next year.
I just don't see Lewandowski being able to play that press. Apparently, Xavi got fired because he didn't want Lewandowski for next year. Apparently, that was like one of the big deciding points.
Memphis Depay is a free agent again. If you want to really bring him back,
bring him home.
Yeah, that's my guy.
But and probably the biggest one, Vincent Kompany to Bayern fails falling forward. The vibe I've got from my Bayern friends, particularly one friend that we are both good friends with, he was very upset about it. Now, Vincent Kompany plays a very attractive brand of football, so this could work out well, but he's a very young manager, very little experience, and his team was one of the worst Premier League teams of all time in the Premier League. While he did get promoted playing very attractive brand of football, he also had the most expensive championship side of all time as well. So I think he's very overhyped. We'll see if he'll be able to live up to the hype. But I mean, after how abysmal Bayern were this entire season, I mean, it can't get that much worse, can it?
I don't think so. But like you said, I just don't really understand taking a team like Burnley, getting relegated, finishing last, or
Second to last.
So yeah, second to last, but still horrible year. And then because of that, you get to go to Bayern. Like
They signed $75 million worth of players too.
Yeah, I don't understand that jump.
And it shows desperation. It shows that no one was in line for that Bayern job.
Yeah,
I would have re-signed Tuchel over signing Vincent Kompany. And this is like a really 50-50 flip a coin hire.
Yeah, I just feel like it's all based on the name in my mind. Like obviously it's Vincent Kompany, English Premier League legends, and
Pep Guardiola student.
Yeah, like I
apparently Pep put in a really good word for him as well, and that might have helped a lot.
I'm sure he did, but for me, it's like hard to fathom that he just took like Burnley was so bad this year, and now he's going to go and his reward for getting relegated is he's going to go coach Bayern. Like it's hard. That's like hard for me to wrap my head around.
Yeah, no, I don't understand it either. Other last two quick things. Any other coaching hires that I've missed? Maybe. I mean, Arne Slot obviously is in, but we've talked about that at length. Any other coaching hires that I'm missing here? I can't think of any.
Don't think so. And just staying, I think.
Yeah, and staying. Pep Guardiola might be his last year at City this year, so we could be seeing kind of the Jurgen Klopp effect this season with City. Maybe that's one thing.
That's gonna be hard to. We have Klopp go, and then we have Pep go maybe the season after. That is just depressing. I guess we just wait on. I guess in terms of other coaches, we just wait on De Zerbi and see what happens.
Yeah, the Brighton Open job right now will be interesting because they usually do really well on that. I saw Steve Cooper's name thrown into the mix. Saw Kieran McKenna.
Kieran McKenna just re-upped.
But he just re-upped. He used that as leverage to go get a fat contract with Ipswich. He's going to jump ship after they get relegated.
McKenna was in on the Chelsea job too. Like he was
in on the Manchester United job as well. He's a Manchester United academy coach. That's where he came from. So
I didn't know that.
He's going to be his name is going to be floated around quite a bit, like a Vincent Kompany almost esque.
Yeah, I didn't love the names that were being thrown into the hat for the Chelsea job. Just be honest, I thought Pochettino was the better option out of them all. To be honest, I wouldn't mind De Zerbi. Like I think that he's a solid coach, and I think that Xavi would have been like a sexy hire. But then you're throwing in the championship coaches and end up hiring one of them, and I don't know. It's
not great.
It's gonna be
now, speaking of championship. Southampton unfortunately beat Leeds in the most expensive game of football played at Wembley. 1-0. Leeds, no answers. Patrick Bamford injury did not help. Feel really bad for the Leeds fans. I'm sure your buddy Blake was just devastated. Russell Martin in Southampton are able to get by. It's going to be really interesting to see what they do in the season. So we have Leicester City, Ipswich, and Southampton next year. I think all three of those teams will go up and right back down. Apparently, Leicester City will get absolutely crushed with FFP point deductions.
Really?
And they might be like off the bat 15-point deduction. So I'm not feeling too good. I'm thinking 3 years in a row where we see the same three go up, same three go down. But maybe we're different. Southampton was in the Premier League for a while, so maybe they'll be here to stay. But don't feel too good about Leicester, and probably feel the worst about Ipswich.
Yeah, I haven't really thought too much, honestly, about how they'll fare next year. But thinking about the game itself, kind of a boring game, to be
It was
honest.
very boring.
Just kind of Leeds were pressing, but they weren't creating anything. And Dan James did hit the crossbar, and that could have made it real weird. But I
Real weird.
would have preferred to see Leeds. I think in the
Me too.
Because Ellen Road's a tough place to play, dude. Those fans are nuts.
One of the best. I feel bad. They just so much pain in their lives constantly from Leeds. I mean, Leeds are the biggest bottlers of anything really in England. It's bad.
Yeah, but I guess we'll get to see Southampton again in the Prem. Can't wait.
Yeah, so fun. Ugliest jerseys of all time.
Che Adams, welcome back.
Welcome back. We missed you, buddy. But the last thing I wanted to mention, I don't know if you saw this, but it was actually sick. Fortuna Dusseldorf versus Bochum relegation playoff. At Bochum, Fortuna go up 3-0 in the first game. And it's looking like Bochum will be sent down. Neighbors of Dortmund, obviously. And then Bochum fight all the way back, tie the second game 3-0, 3-3 on aggregate, and then they win in penalties. Fortuna Dusseldorf absolutely choke. But if you were bored on a Tuesday and a Thursday and needed some absolute brilliant action to watch, those games were insane.
Philip Hoffman.
2 goals.
Kevin
2 goals.
Stuger. Oh, yeah. Dude.
It was interesting because I thought Bochum were finished. Apparently, Fortuna Dusseldorf's coach is a really promising coach. I saw Ewan, our good friend of the show, tweet about that a couple weeks back, and so I got to look into him. But yeah, I just wanted to mention that was dramatic at its finest.
Didn't catch it, but hey, Bochum, congrats.
Congrats for saving your bacon, especially in the last game. But all right, Harrison. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. For the fans, apologies for a lapse of content. We just have been busy and there hasn't been too much to talk about. So we wanted to kind of group it all into one episode and then do an episode. Me and Harrison will probably do a betting show before Euros and Copa just to really scheme up what's going on. Maybe throw some MLS plays as the boys have stayed hot through the summer. But we will be back as soon as we can with more content. Definitely go check out our Twitter. And we'll continue to do content with the Charlotte Soccer Show. So go check them out as well. But until next time, Harrison.
Adios.